Well, I will introduce today's podcast for the first time ever, really. My name is Emily Wells. This is my co-host, Gerardo Ramos. And this is Karima Ashanti Marshall. I hope I got that right. Brilliant musician, performer, artist in all forms, model as well. And this is Language of the Heart podcast. Well, what is a language of the heart but self-expression of our truest, most authentic selves. And on this podcast, we will be having conversations with artists on their creative process, as well as maybe some unexpected struggles and passions of theirs that they would like to talk about. So we can get started if everyone is okay, or if they would like to intervene on my very spontaneous introduction that I have not prepared for at all. So
you did so good. What?
You did prepare. I love it.
That deserves a round of applause.
Hey! Oh. We got a full stadium over here against COVID rules, but it's okay.
I'm growing.
I love it.
You did great.
You did.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for introing it. Karima, thank you for your time, for being here, for helping to further our podcast. I know we have so much to dig into with you, but I just want to say thank you. How are you doing?
Wow. Well, thank you. First off, thank you. And you know what? You did prepare. You did prepare for your intro, and I want to just give a little golf clap for the intro, because we're talking about creativity. We're talking about feelings, all the stuff. I'm such a holistic person. Everything affects everything else. So even though I'm here to be interviewed, I want to give that energy of like, you're doing a creative project right now, and I'm part of your creative project, which is so cool. It's like this meta thing. Like, we're talking about my creativity and y'all's creativity while being creative. It's cool.
Yeah,
I love it.
Right.
It's very healing.
It
I
is.
think. The last podcast, I had a therapy session, and I honestly felt much better after the podcast session. So
I love that.
I hope we can create the same vibe of just being inspired and learning from others.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, to really answer your question, I mean, how am I doing? I'm doing all sorts of ways. I am exhausted emotionally from just processing heartbreak right now and family struggles. I feel like I'm always in some sort of existential thing. I don't even know what.
Probably because you speak French.
Yeah, that's it. The ennui.
Ennui. I love that word. So sorry if I can just interject. I love that word so much. Before I went to film school and applied, I made this small little film in Edmonton with a friend of mine, and I called it ennui. And I don't know where I came across the word, but it just perfectly captured what I was like feeling. And I was like, wait, there's a word for that. And I fell in love with the word. So that's a cool word. That's a cool word.
It is. I love it. Yeah. French has some good encapsulators.
Speaking of words, I would like to hear about the origins of your name. If you can tell us your fullest name, like your first, middle, last name.
Sure.
Who gave you your name? What, if there is any meaning to your name?
Absolutely. Ooh, well, there's some juicy stuff in there. Okay, so my legal name, don't steal my identity, anyone, is Ashanti Karima McLeod Marshall. So you have Ashanti Karima, my first and middle name, given to me by my parents, chosen out of a book, really, I think, of African names. But those two names have meanings in a few places in the world. So I'll break those down in a second, but then you have McLeod and Marshall, which are more of the European names. So I don't know a lot about my family past, 2 generations above me. So as a Black woman, with West Indian heritage, all I really know is that my family clearly came from Africa at some point. But obviously, because there are these, for lack of a better word, pretty white names, I'm guessing there was some slavery in there at some point. Or because I don't know, seem to have any white relatives, but McLeod and Marshall are very white names. And there's a lot of like abandonment in my family, a lot of not knowing like who the males are in the lineage. So that's been something that has always been on my mind. The McLeod and the Marshall, this very like, I think they're both like English, Irish, Scottish, something like that. There's like tartans for them and everything. And I always wonder, like, where did that come from? So there's that. Mom's maiden name, dad's last name. But then Ashanti and Karima both have these meanings that I only found out recently mean something together. So Ashanti, the Ashanti people, or the Ashanti people, however you pronounce it, they are from Ghana. It's a tribe in Ghana. And those people are known for this like strength, and they're warriors. Apparently they have a great soccer team. I've heard that as well.
Yes, they do.
Yes. And I've heard, this is just throughout my life, a few people talking to me. I haven't honestly researched it a lot, but Ghana, I think, is just known for just sort of like cultural strength and honor, but like a fierceness, like the warriors, like the Ashanti warriors were like, to be feared and revered. And then Karima, actually, no, let me go back to Ashanti, because I believe in India, Shanti means peace. So Ashanti, I remember someone in a grocery store once, like who was checking me out, was like, Ashanti, oh my goodness. Like she had some sort of connection to India. Maybe she was Indian, but she said like, oh, it's like the opposite of peace. Like she had her eyes widened and she's like, oh my goodness, your name, like that's intense. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, does it mean war? She's like, no, it's not war. It's like unrest. Which I feel that because I'm a very dichotomous person, which leads me to Karima, which apparently is kind of synonymous with like generosity, maybe something else, like just this like benevolence. Yeah, I think it's that spirit of benevolence. So together it makes a benevolent warrior, which I only found out within the last couple of years that my mom intended that. I didn't know my whole life. I just was like, oh, cool. I learned this through people stopping me and saying like, oh, that's your name. Oh, this means something in my country, like in the Middle East, in India, in Africa. So even that has affected me and or like kind of, it makes sense the way I've always been. I'm a very dichotomous person. I'm super fierce, but very giving and generous and can be kind of naive. I used to get in trouble for being like having a lot of attitude or being very like harsh and being angry, but I'm just very passionate. So yeah, it's interesting how my name kind of actually does really work with my personality. And especially because I use Karima now for my music, I feel like Ashanti is the old me. They like the me from being born and going through all these struggles and not knowing who I was, whereas Karima is now like who I've stepped into as an older woman now, not a girl. And I can like basically channel what I've learned through all those hard years and give it to the world through my music. So it actually is like all very symbolic and weird, and I like didn't really plan it, but here we are.
Beautiful.
Serendipity, I guess, with the name. Yeah.
Excellent. I remember when I first met you, I think it was for a shoot with Sister to Sister.
Mm-hmm.
And you were just like, you came in a bit late. I think you were coming from something else. You always have your very busy schedule. And you were just like such this like I would say fierce energy, because you were like, you had these like killer posing moves. I don't know, maybe you were doing modeling at the time, but you were also just very like soft at the same time. Like I feel like you had that like kind of like benevolent or like generous kind of spirit. Like you were very generous with yourself and your posing and like when you were talking and interacting with the other people. But yeah, I think that's so cool with the names, and that that you have that root connection, because some people, it's really sad. Like I know some Black friends, their parents will give them like white sounding names. So I don't know if you like experienced that in school, like with people like mispronouncing your name, if that was something that frustrated you. We don't need to stay on this too long, but maybe that can even just dive into like your upbringing, like in school and in home, like how that may have affected, like what was that kind of relationship with growing up?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, there's so much to talk about. Thank you for saying that, by the way. I'm so glad that I came across as like fierce and giving at the same time, because, you know, that's always nice to hear. So thanks.
It's quite a contrast.
Yeah, yeah. And I've learned to just embrace it. But yeah, my childhood as a Black girl with the name Ashanti, or Ashanti, whichever way. I never liked, my mom and I talked about this the other day. She's like, why are you calling yourself Ashanti? I'm like, that's my name. You gave it to me. She's like, no, you're saying Ashanti. And I'm like, what? So I literally Googled, how do you say Ashanti? Because I'm like, Mom, you can say it either way. And like the YouTube video of how to say it literally said Ashanti in the robot voice or Ashanti. And I just burst out laughing. I'm like, Mom, I got you. But yes, childhood. So people would always first off say Ashanti. And I'm like, you just heard me say Ashanti. And people still do it. People like literally the second after, in person or on the phone. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but my name is not Ashanti.
Like,
Ashanti.
Yeah. Oh, I've gotten that too, which was very confusing when I went to Quebec the first time. People thought I just was like saying Enchanté. And I'm like, no, that's my name, Ashanti. Ashanti.
Wow.
Je parle français. C'est Ashanti, oui. So, but yeah, childhood. Oh my God. I mean, we're going to have to narrow it down because there's so much to talk about with my childhood and like.
Or like, were you always creative?
You know? Yeah. I was always creative. I loved drawing. I loved singing. I started singing in church, like just in the back, you know, like, but that was the place where I could like wail and just be as loud as I wanted to and just sing like the hymns, the gospel, like just singing out loud. Like I remember that feeling amazing. And of course, being a little kid, you're like in the little cocoon of all the adult bodies that are way bigger than you. So I just felt like I was in my own world. It was amazing. I loved to draw. I started playing piano when I was young because my parents noticed that like I liked playing on pianos when I was around. Picked up any instruments I could at school. I've always loved making art. Yeah.
Now, if I can just jump in with a question about your childhood, like so you were born and raised in Edmonton?
I was, yeah.
Right. So what was like school? Maybe what school did you go to? What was that like? It seemed like you were going to go into some stories about like your name and how that was perceived and even like talked about in school. What was that like? Oh my
goodness. Like, well, okay. So yeah, I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, Millwood specifically. Ooh. So, you know, I grew up in a multicultural neighborhood for sure, but at school, you know, I was definitely a minority, being a Black girl. I had one girl who was Indian telling me that I was Indian because like I found out later that I actually do have some like Indian lineage in my family. So I was like, maybe she could just like tell by my bone structure that she looked like some of her relatives, but it was just, and then you had, you know, the white kids like placing this very kind of MTV Black people culture on me because we're all we're all like in that era of popular culture and television and like magazines and all of that stuff being kind of synonymous with whatever you see in person. So for a kid from Edmonton, Alberta to see a Black kid, they just assume that it's like a Black person they saw on TV, which is absurd. And I knew that as a kid, but that's how it was.
Wow. So you're kind of like a celebrity to start off.
Oh my God. Yeah, if only. Oh my God. No way. School was hard. School was absolute hell for me.
Wow.
People made fun, like from the first day, I was ridiculed for my body, my skin. I remember kids that, like someone said I looked like dirt or mud, and like I like every day it was something about my weight. Like I was the fat kid in quotation. So yeah, I still struggle with that. Like
now
to
she's
this
a
day.
Model.
I am a model. It's true. But
fuck you, little kids.
Right?
Pull out some names. Let's go. Name them. Let's go.
No.
I have gunshots ready.
Oh my God.
All right,
Gerardo.
Jeff. That's you, Jeff. Look at her now, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Okay, for legal purposes, there was never a Jeff. No, yeah, it was hard. Honestly, it was hard. So I think growing up, the creativity aspect for me was just a way for me to get out what I had on my mind, and just I got used to being alone because, you know, if you're in class and you don't really have people liking you, I was like, great, I'm gonna be that fierce kid. Like, I'm gonna just do the hardest art project. I'm gonna do the thing that nobody else is doing, and you know, be the kid that's like, I'm learning all the big words and I'm just educating myself, figuring out how to be what I want to be. So again, this dichotomy of like being very insecure, being in so much pain, but also knowing in the back of my mind that I would keep going and that there would be some triumph at some point. So, yeah, school was horrible. It was hard. It was really hard. But you know, I'm here now. So did the whole, you know, high school that we all know high school is all sorts of crazy, all sorts of hard. And then university, I feel like I was like coming into my own. I was playing in a band at that point. You know, I got to be the one singing at the school assemblies and going on band trips. I was definitely a band geek. Played the clarinet. I loved it.
Clarinet.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and then art class, painting, you know, Gerardo, you've been to my house. You've seen my grade 8 painting projects.
Which I was stunned by. They were great. They were like very good. I was curious, like, what were some of the first art forms? Was it drawing? Was it painting? Where did music come in?
Yeah, drawing. I remember drawing a lot when I was a kid. So I think that was the first thing. But when I started to see like instruments, you know, like my father was so my parents are separated. So my father was seeing someone who had a piano at her house, like a keyboard, and I just became obsessed with it. Wow. So all of a sudden it was, oh, we should probably put her in piano lessons. And then, you know, and then that happened. Yeah, I mean, it was hard growing up too, because I wanted to do everything. I was dancing too. Yeah. Me and my sister were put into like ballet when we were really young, and then moved on to jazz, just community classes, but we'd have the recital every year and like all of that stuff, the big show at the end of the year. I just loved it all. Like, I just love being creative and performing. I was very shy when I was young because I remember my mom putting us in like a modeling course or something, and like I could not. I think there was a portion where I had to like say something on the mic and I froze. Yes. I like could not talk, and I can't even believe that was me at any point. But
do you remember how old you were?
Oh my God, I was so young, like probably younger than like 10.
That's very scary.
So
that's so
yeah,
young.
like a room full of adults, but
no
like
kidding.
I definitely, I still, I don't know, in my heart, I was like, I'm going to be a runway model one day, like watching Fashion File, like every weekend and all that stuff with Jeannie Becker. Wait, was Jeannie Becker on Fashion File or
I remember
Fashion
that.
Television?
Yeah, Fashion Television.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that.
That was a great show.
That
okay, it was great.
What was the music that was to that?
Dun, 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 dun.
I should have pulled up my laptop and put the music because I remember that so vividly.
Yeah,
wow.
iconic way to spend like a Saturday or whatever day it was on. But yeah, even fashion. I wanted to design clothing. I wanted to be an architect when I was like 5. Whoa. So I just like, I love creativity. And everything to me is connected. I just like love like beauty and like all the senses, like beautiful environment, beautiful sounds, melodies, you know, from retro to contemporary, like, yeah, just excites me.
I think that definitely plays a huge part, because even seeing how you did your music video project, you had written an extensive treatment with going into detail about visually how you wanted it to seem and like having the pieces together, which I think a lot of musicians say they are so connected with the music that they can't visualize how they want things to turn out, but you've always been very like visually and musically involved.
Is that how it is? I mean, I feel like this is my opportunity to ask a question, to interrupt, but that's interesting to me because I have always thought of things in like a very cinematic way. Like I think of the music and the visuals at the same time as like the story. But you, I mean, as a filmmaker, and you work with artists, like taking photos, styling for them, being on set, like you both have this perspective of artists that I don't necessarily have. So is that like your actual experience, that like artists tend to be very like kind of myopic, I guess, of like just the music?
I think it really depends personally.
Okay.
I have worked with people who, I think more and more people are doing more things because we live in such a complex world. You can watch YouTube videos and there's so many like stimulus to do that. But I think for actual musicians sitting down to write like a treatment and to like have a clear vision, I think a lot of them like contact me to like help them with that, since I do like creative direction. They'd be like, I don't really know what, like they have like 1 or 2 reference images, but they need quite a bit more help from my experience.
Yeah. I guess this is a good opportunity to kind of explain to our listeners and viewers kind of our own relationship. I mean, as an artist, I think the way hearing you describe how art has influenced your life and how you've kind of grown into seeing everything as like a beautiful network and part of it each other, that's exciting to me, because like that's also how I view a lot of art. But I mean, where our interaction really kind of crystallized was in creating these music videos for you. And so I had done a few projects with some musicians that, like Emily was saying, were much more, limited in their viewpoint of like, okay, I'm going to like focus this artistic energy on the music. And there wasn't really a concern for what the visual would come out. And even in discussions with them about like what a potential music video could be, it's very much, yes, I need your expertise to come along and collide some ideas with what I think is in there to create something. But what was so unique with partnering with you in creating these music videos was that you had this like really distinct vision that no matter what I had to bring to the table, you kind of were already clear in what you wanted, which was beautiful. That's very.
Good. I was like, uh-oh.
No. It was, I'll be like, I mean, on like from the practical side of things on my own end, being your cinematographer and director of whatever needed to happen. Yes, there are some practical things that are like, okay, well, it'd be nice to know like we're doing certain moments and elements. But when we kind of finally saw the products, like I remember being at your apartment, sitting watching some of the rushes and the cuts that Daniel, the editor, had done, I was just blown away. I was like, oh my God. Honestly, this was one of the few times in my life where I felt something I had shot didn't necessarily originate in my mind, but I could see that it did in yours. And I was like, wow. Like I felt like I did nothing. That's how I felt. I was like, I pointed the camera, pressed record, and her artistic genius shone through in like the direction, the set, the performance. And I was like, whoa, we made something good. And then I was like, wait, no, she made something good. I was just part of the wave.
I love that.
I have a question from that, if you're
finished.
So I don't know if it's just like innate within you, but let's say there's another musician out there and they're struggling with trying to connect their music with visuals. Can you give any advice, or how does your process with like, or does it come simultaneously with when you're writing music, like the visuals, or do you kind of make associations afterwards, or do you think there's lots of influences like movies you've watched or books you've read or music videos and artists that you like that you think inspire you?
Ooh, yeah, all of it. All of it. So firstly, I think mindset and like your psychology plays, well, it's everything. So for me, I'm very open about talking about like my neuroatypicalness, I guess. Like when people are not neurotypical, that just means like you have some sort of like disorder. I put quotation marks on that because what is order and disorder really? But to me, I'm kind of more on the ADHD side, like anxious, trauma, all that stuff. So the way that I process information is maybe different than someone else. And so I find that all this like anxiety forces me to like absorb things like movies, music in a very almost like a robotic cataloging kind of way. Like I like suck it up. Like I'm just like when I'm watching a movie, it's like I'm creating a Rolodex of things, like parts. Like I'm like, okay, that shot, cool, remember it. Like the way that this person was looking at the other person and this moment, like that kind of emotional moment would be great for a song that's like with this tempo and like these sound effects and like all that stuff. So I guess like with working on this visual project that isn't out yet, but in creating that, firstly, it took me like a year of coming back to it, going to it, coming back to it, taking lots of breaks and just letting like the things I was watching and the things I knew I loved kind of just amalgamate together in my mind into like this soup. And then I just would type it out, write it out, make sketches, draw with crayon, like make blocks, figure it out, rip it up. And then just go with like my gut feeling as to what felt right. So I don't know, this happens with me in my songwriting too. Sometimes I'll write like the song Be Good to Me. I talk about how I wrote it. I wrote these words, I'm just playing, I wrote Be Good to Me. But I think my mind goes so fast, I don't really know what I'm saying until afterwards. So with the visuals, for me, I just stay open. I try to just be a sponge because I know that it'll just work itself out. So I guess that's kind of, I know that doesn't seem like actual advice, but what I'm saying is, you know, when
it's your process.
Yeah, it's my process. It's like, I can't really focus on one thing at a time, which is really hard and makes life really hard. But at the same time, it's a really good thing because I have to it's like my brain is processing a lot all the time, but because I take a step back from something, I end up getting all these influences just in the soup. And then later on, when I come back and look at what I'm working on, which in this case is a visual album, connecting like the themes in my lyrics to whatever Rolodex I have of movies I've watched. You know, I love everything from like, I'm a big fan of like bad horror movies, bad in quotations again, like, you know, stuff like Evil Dead or like Army of Darkness. I love anything to do with vampires. I love that drama, but I also love like surrealism and like weird floaty kind of, I don't know, like Salvador Dali, like that intrigues me. So the combination of those inspirations, things, you know, Beyonce and like all the stylish stuff, like, you know, minimalism, trying to create all of that in like putting all of that into one project and then being limited by time and money just kind of forced me to get creative and like just pick and pull from everything and work with like color symbolism and be limited by materials, like only use fabrics. Okay, create 5 vignettes only using fabric, or like what can I do with makeup since I'm drawing on my skills as a makeup artist. Yeah, I don't know. I feel I'm being very long-winded here. I'm so sorry.
No.
Because I've never actually had to put this into like words and like try to give advice. But if someone's struggling with like visuals and connecting it to their music or maybe anything else, any other discipline, ultimately always comes down to like meaning and symbolism and I don't know, just like the essence of the story you're trying to tell. And you can tell a story in so many different ways. So it really just comes down to like, what do you like aesthetically? If you like the color white, then just go with that and like Google meanings of the color white, and you will go and like try to embrace like the rabbit hole. Embrace the thing that I can't avoid, the ADHD thing where it's like, okay, I need to know everything about everything and I can't stop. If you're not like that, then you got to just like dive and dig and like get in there, learn everything about, like turn it inside out what you're working on and like do more than you think anyone will ever know that you did, because that's ultimately what I think any person who's creating something that has layers is doing. You know, you're doing stuff that like someone may never notice, but you know, like the backstory to like the plant and like why the plant is there and like what the plant means and like what it means to a culture that's halfway across the world. If it means something to you, use it. You know, it's all about like the underlying meaning. I'm so long-winded. I'm so sorry.
No,
I thought that was great.
That was a lot, but like there's so much to talk about. It's so hard.
Actually, if I can just like speak to like, I like how you put it as like a soup of your influences. Because if I could like touch base on like our process of talking about your ideas and then, you know, materializing them. When we talked, I remember we had like sat down, I think it was on a weekend, and just talked out these ideas that you had for each song, which was 6 songs, correct? And then I think a French version of one of them.
Yeah.
So it was essentially like 7 music videos that we talked about. We had a rough idea, and I came away from that being like, okay, cool. Like this could be a fun endeavor. And then I was like, it wasn't like green lit. It didn't seem like it was like, we didn't for sure like set a date and plan it out then. And then I think like a week or 2 later, you're like, okay, cool. Let's shoot this week. And I was like, whoa. It's moving quick and it's happening. And I only bring that up to say, like, I think like some of the ideas, again, because of constraints of time and probably money and just whatever else was being planned, did shift a bit, did form. I think we even maybe scrapped some of the original ideas we talked about and went. And all I bring that up is to say is that through that all, I still trusted you in that I knew you had influenced yourself enough with films and music and art to say, oh, this is how I want to come across. So even if it was us showing up day of, throwing up things and bringing the materials, you said, you know, fabrics and all that, it still came together as a very cohesive piece with the meaning that you had intended behind it.
It's very you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Very much so. And I'm so excited to like see it released.
I'm so excited too.
So if I could just ask, like, what's I know there's so many factors, but what's like the timeline for this of your EP and then the videos?
Yeah. So the thing with the EP, honestly, this whole year, wow, just coronavirus and then like racial inflammatory like media stuff, like, oh my God. I basically just, honestly, I feel like I spent the whole year on the couch and putting out an EP and putting out a visual album and like getting all the details together. I just want to do it like condensed and correct. So yeah, I mean, I'm hoping
next week
that maybe like December, January.
Okay,
which
cool.
Like I know I want to put it out so bad.
So
like
we're turning
right now,
this into a Christmas album.
Honestly,
cool.
Wow,
No,
it was
New
like
Year because 2020
New Year's,
Ooh,
right? 2020 is a write-off, guys. Like it's out the door. It's in the trash, recycle bin, eco station. Yeah, so hopefully soon. But you know what? I just don't want to rush it because I want it to be right. And I want to be at peace when it's coming out because I want to be like sharing it like crazy, like posting, sharing it, publicity, marketing it all over the world, like, and I need energy for that. Yeah. And right now I'm barely standing up. It's hard right now.
Well, the images look great because I took BTS photos, which I still need to send to you.
Yes.
But they were very cool.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yes.
The creative direction on it was so great.
Thank
your
you.
Set design, which I did assist with, but
oh my gosh, yeah. You guys were amazing.
Kind of brought up from your mind. Just to go back to like how the images may have meaning to you or certain images that you gravitate towards. And you mentioned like horror films. Do you find in your life like there has been, I feel like as a girl, as a woman, it's almost a horror sometimes. Just like living in a horror film, you have to be scared of so many things. Or like even you said you're fascinated by vampires. I wonder if you've had like a story or like an experience, a time in your life where you felt like people were like sucking energy out of you, or it was almost like, you know, like kind of a scary situation that you.
Oh my goodness.
Because I feel like being an artist, it can feel like your family or like friends are kind of like draining your energy with Like you're like, you can't be an artist, especially in Edmonton. So
Ooh, let's talk about it.
Oh my goodness.
lots to unpack there.
Oh, there's so much to unpack. Oh my gosh. Wow.
A question wasn't clear. Can we start with one, Gerardo?
I mean, yeah, there's a few. I feel like there are a few questions wrapped up in there.
Let's start with like the artistic side. The first question that was asked, which was like, maybe my own words are escaping here.
So, like, have you encountered people who are draining your energy, like vampires?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's
And how do you get out of that situation?
How do you get out of that? Ooh, you know, I've definitely been there. I've had people that I worked with in creativity that just didn't have the same goals and vision, and just ultimately, like took more than they gave. And I think that, I don't know, I feel like that comes with maturity. I feel like that comes with just time. It's hard to say because I've met some teenagers that are like way more self-aware than I ever was at their age. Just about like what they want to do. And so they wouldn't, when you know what you want and you know what you're worth, you just don't end up spending much time around people who don't treat you as well as they should. And I think the lessons I've learned over time have been through going through it, like through going through it, being in situations where I'm like, it's emotionally abusive. It's like people are draining, people are taking, and I'm not able to see what I have to offer. I'm not able to see that this isn't right. Like I have more to give, and I need to be around people who help me to thrive rather than bring me down. And it's unfortunate because some people don't know that they're energy vampires. Like some people don't realize it. They just don't know. But some people are just not nice and just not in a good place. And when I finally realized like nobody is going to make moves except for me. Like nothing's going to magically happen and make me work with this person or put me in a different life position. I'm in charge. So, ladies, it ain't easy being independent. It's true. Yeah. Ladies, it ain't easy being independent. It's true. Like for people to, I don't know. I want to segue this into what we were just talking about, which is us working together and the rest of the team, of course, that worked on these visuals for me. I feel like that was the opportunity for me to put my nerves aside and like step into a role of like a team leader or like even just part of a team that was like healthy. Because I've worked with people before that it was just an unhealthy environment. And of course that it's not fun, obviously, but like the art is better when everyone just ultimately can feel good. Like it starts there. Nothing is more important to me now than managing emotions, managing stress, managing like the psychology of me and the people around me, because we're people first. So I think, advice for people who are maybe dealing with struggles with like people who don't believe in them or people who bring them down, like you, Emily, you were saying like, oh, you've had people tell you like, don't try that again. Like, don't bother with certain skills. Like, no, anything is possible with the right amount of, like you said, passion and practice. You put the work in, you can do anything you want. If Donald Trump can become president, okay, like you can live your dreams for sure and do a great job at it and win at it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
I wanted to like ask something to partner that. It was like, I mean, I think anyone can identify some people that like drain life away from them slowly, even as they're talking. But I was curious, how do you like restore yourself? You said you spent a lot of time on your own. Is that something you still enact, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So for me, restoring myself, I mean, I do need a lot of alone time just to like let my brain exist. Something I need to do more is just go, just be outside and just enjoy silence. I'm very much invested in having like all the five senses be treated well, be okay. I've been learning about dialectical behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. So, that's all about being like really aware of what's going on. What are your thoughts? Where are you? What are you smelling? What are you touching? What's your breathing like? So for me to feel like I can function, I need like a warm drink. I need something that smells good, like a nice almond milk like latte or something. Yeah. Or I need to be like the right temperature, like all of those like little things that don't really like cost a lot of money. Thankfully, I'm very lucky and fortunate to live in a pretty safe country, and I have access to like clean water and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, reminding myself of the little things that we consider to be little, that stuff, like, because I am an anxious person, that gives me that restorative ability to be like, okay, I'm fine. Ultimately, like me making music is like self-actualization, which is icing on the cake for anyone living in this world today. Like the fact that I can decide like what coat am I going to wear? What blanket shall I use? What Netflix TV show can I watch? Like, I just tell myself I'm rich. I'm living like to me, I'm a billionaire. I'm not a billionaire yet, but like in my mind, I'm like, I'm cozy, I'm good. And I can take myself, even if I'm with other people, even if I'm stressed out, like if I can kind of create that world in my own mind and visualize it, even with my eyes open, I feel like I'm able to like function and be creative and like just walk through the world in a way that I can be that like generous person,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's beautiful. I think I never really thought about that, like that richness. And then I was going through a rough time listening to those self-help YouTube videos. It's like, there's one, it's like, I am abundant. I am a billionaire.
Yes. Oh, affirmations. Yes.
The affirmations.
Hell yeah.
And I kind of laughed. I was like, ha, this is hilarious. But it's kind of like if you say it, you're like, you kind of like smile. You're like, ha. So.
Yeah. I mean, there's an important of like what you're, because it kind of feeds to like what you say about yourself,
Oh, absolutely.
It's almost in an implicit way. All these things that are like, from your experiences, people that have said things against you. And it's like, all of that is somehow latent in your mind and plays. And so for me, like I connect with being alone. I love nature. Recently, I've been going for walks and runs in the morning, which has been a nice like way to start the day. Cause just myself currently not having any structure, it's a nice way to like set it. And even like as I'm like running or walking, I'll be like, oh, okay, that can happen. I remember like thinking, I was like, oh, today on a run, like last week, I was like, I'm going to make the Instagram for this podcast. I'm going to like create that. I was like, okay. I'm like, hey, good. You're being productive and you're going, but then in the busyness of that, I can kind of get, wrapped up in like, okay, got to run, got to get home at this time, got to make a meal. And I remember this moment where I was just like running and I like noticed the wind kind of blowing through the trees. And I noticed where I was, it was just very quiet. There's nobody else. There was no traffic, no other noises. And I just stopped. And I wasn't like listening to headphones, and I intentionally don't take anything so I can just be out there. And I just stopped for a moment. I was like, whoa. It was like this stillness. And actually, I mean, a Bible verse that came back to my mind was, be still and know that I am God. And I hadn't like thought about that in a while. And in that moment, I just kind of like stood there and I was like, whoa. I was like, my body and all my mind wants to keep running. But just like standing here and enjoying the breeze, enjoying the sunlight, like just like that, as you were saying about the senses, it was so, I was like, oh, I don't do this enough,
Love that.
Love that too. It's like when you see a calm lake and it's reflecting the mountain or trees and with no distortion because it's so still.
Right.
And then in that stillness, you can like fully perceive, you know, the universe and what is clear without any sort of distortion of like anxious thoughts or like false constructs of society. It's all like that natural truth is just right there if you can reach that stillness, which I think you can like through art, like when you're like in the zone. And going into that, I think, yeah, that's just like such a pure way to communicate. Like if you're still and if you're listening, do you find yourself, because I know for me personally, I think I got a big reason why I got into photography was I was so anxious, like talking to people and like going to events just as myself. So I use photography as a way to like communicate with others and kind of like have my this kind of way of expressing myself was through photography. Do you find like has communication always been easy for you? It sounds like you're an introvert, but you do appear to give like extroverted vibes just because you're so, I think, good at conversation. So are you an introvert, extrovert, and how do you communicate like with people?
Oh, I love that you touched on that because to me, communication is everything. All we are just like sacks of being communicating with each other, like through whatever, you know, through our design, through our conversation, through language, through music, like through art, everything. So I think because of the traumas I experienced as a kid, communicating was a struggle. Like from me, you know, people telling me the way I was communicating was wrong, just like too abrasive, or, you know, I'm not being nice enough or polite enough or whatever. That was a huge issue for a while. And then I went in the complete opposite direction. I was like, I guess I became very, I don't know what another word for anxious, but very, very like preoccupied with pleasing other people and making sure that like I'm not doing the wrong thing, which of course is impossible. So becoming this like over analyzing and then digging yourself into this hole with communication, it's so hard. But yeah, I became very interested in communication methods, like how to stand up for yourself, how to speak clearly, how to be confident when I was really young, because I was getting made fun of every day. And I wanted to learn how to like fake it till you make it, communicate in a way that's like clear, concise, powerful, all that stuff.
How did you learn?
I mean, I read like at the time I didn't really have like the internet because I'm an 80s, 90s kid. So yeah, just like reading magazines and like picking up what I could and reading books and like seeing confident characters like in movies too and trying to like embody that. Like the first thing that comes to my mind is like James Bond or something like that, or movies where the characters that were the hero, like if they were suave and confident and people listened to them, like I would like pick up a word that they would use, or just like their demeanor. Like I feel like I'm a person that maybe like is good at mirroring. Like I tend to be good with like with French in school. I spoke French and, you know, I learned the accent pretty quickly. And it's just for mirroring, or like even drawing. Like I was always better at like drawing what I saw and like copying it than maybe coming up with something in my head and creating something new. So I think with communication, I just was like, okay, well, I'll just observe confident people and like act like them. So, you know, or like read what and like pick up little things in magazines and like books and characters and stuff like that. But yeah, communication in a way for me was hard. Even when I started singing, my mom would tell me like, oh, I can't hear the words you're singing. You're being very, it's like there's like peanut butter in your mouth, basically. Like, I don't know if she said that, but it's true. Like listening to old recordings, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm saying. And I still have this feeling that again relates to my mindset. Like, I feel like I'm kind of locked up. Like I'm like protecting myself. And people talk about like the throat chakra and like all that stuff. I don't know about chakras. I don't get it. But to me, it's like the all I understand from that is like energy and places in your body and them like physically being obstructed through like tension. And so like me dealing with muscle tension dysphonia in the past few years, which basically means means you're so tense that you can't like phonating means that like what I'm doing right now is talking. That means I'm phonating. I'm making sound with my muscles. When you're so tense that like your face and your muscles are like locked and it hurts to talk because your muscles are basically like not moving. They're not moving like in a smooth way. Like that was something I was dealing with for a while. And like, I like the things going on in your mind, your psychology and your physical body are so intertwined. Like you will have those physical manifestations, even if technically there's nothing like physically wrong. So me having the stress over performing and like at the time was right after being on, or like during the time I was on that show La Voix, The Voice Canada, just the amount of worry and anxiety and stress really affected my ability to speak up. And it's been, I think, now that I think about it, in the past few years, I've struggled with this perception that people don't hear me.
Wow.
That like I speak, like even in my job, I would say something and it was like I was a ghost. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm speaking at a normal level. I'm in a meeting, like I'm saying something and people would just like not, it'd be like they were walking by, not hearing me. And I'm like, what can I do to get people to understand? Wow. And sometimes I still deal with that, but I really think what was going on is this idea in my head that like, I'm not good enough. I'm, frustrated with myself. I don't like myself. I'm scared. And it manifested itself into like physical turmoil and like people literally not hearing me, even though I'm making sound, I'm speaking English, and it's like there's a disconnect. So all that to say, I find psychology and communication and like, I don't know, like essence and spirituality and like whatever we are inside of our bodies, like it's all connected, and it's so interesting that like one thing can affect something else in such a way that it's just not like always a direct path that we always think. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally feel you on that. And I have a similar experience, like where I feel silenced. And I think it has a lot to do with, because I was bullied when I was younger, and just like being told to be quiet. And just like, even if you have one bad interaction with someone, like when someone like ignores you one day and then it carries on, you're like, oh, it like carries on, especially if you are in a negative state. You're like, what I have to say isn't worth saying. I don't want to bother or annoy anyone. And then your chest feels like heavier and heavier. It's very physical. It's a very physical feeling. And I don't know where I was going to go with that, but I just totally feel you. Yes, on the connection between body and psychology. How about space? Because I think we were talking about like how our space can influence our environment, can influence like our thought process and how we interact with others. Maybe if you want to comment on the Edmonton space and...
Yeah, you had a lot to say right
before we wrote.
Yeah, yes. Ooh, Edmonton. Well, I'll start by saying I've been fortunate enough to travel a little bit around the world for music. So observing the way that different cities kind of support or what's the word? Not streamline, but when like incorporate, like you just seamlessly incorporate different cultures into infrastructure. Again, like I always wanted to be an architect, and when I was a kid, and then I switched over to the fashion design thing and the human ecology thing, and like how objects and like spaces affect us as people, and how we in turn culturally will affect our spaces. So I'm looking at every last little detail when I'm in a city. So for example, New York, big famous city. You got Times Square, you got all these signs, you got marquees, the big, are like the Hollywood, the classic name and lights kind of thing. as an artist living in Edmonton, it only dawned on me a few years ago that like, you can't really have your name in lights in Edmonton. I'm like, what's that about? It's not really like, I guess it's kind of an old school concept, but it's still possible. So what's going on there? And, that made me realize that like that just those details, I guess, when you're in a space for long enough, you think that whatever is there is normal. You think that that's just how it has to be. That's not really the case. There's a reason that things are the way they are, and that's by design, or by just neglect. I don't really know what the case is for Edmonton because unfortunately I wish I could know absolutely everything. But I'm very interested in like our city planning, the people who make decisions about signage, like what the regulations are, about how we like promote our culture. I was at I think it was an Edmonton Arts Council. They were doing this like YEG culture map thing a few years ago. And I don't really know where they're at on that, but it was basically this plan to kind of overhaul the culture of Edmonton arts. And at one of these roundtable discussions with people in the music sector specifically, because they were doing multidisciplinary talks, we talked about signage. And I brought up the issue of, why is it that I can't see like a billboard of like what's happening at the Citadel on all sides? Or like, why is it that going down Jasper Ave, I'm not seeing like this band is playing here and this and this and this and this? Because I know, I'm from here. I know there's 9910 in the basement of the under the Common. I know that the Rocky Mountain Ice House is right next to, I hope that's the right name, Rocky Mountain Ice House. I don't know. See, this is right. Bad. We're from here. And like there aren't that many venues.
It's to the point though.
But like like just the idea that like it's not a huge city. We have really just two main streets. We've got the White Ave, we've got the Jasper Ave. And like that's where things are bumping on the weekend, we're in the district with the arena where they're having huge concerts. If I'm driving by Rogers, I'm seeing a marquee. I'm seeing a big poster. Right. Justin Timberlake's coming. This person's coming. There's like electronic signs telling me like the Oilers are playing this night. This is happening. But then anything that is local, nothing is animated.
Right.
Like what's going on? What is going on here? So anyways, to bring it back to the space issue, like for me, I'm bold and people I know from studying my whole life about like psychology in communication and marketing and creativity, people need to be beaten over the head with stuff so that they'll like show up, right? That's how marketing works. Right. You see an ad 10 times, you're going to think about maybe buying it. Mm-hmm. You might go see a concert if you see the ad like 20 times. So for people visiting Edmonton, if they don't know where to go, they're going to think there's nothing going on. And unfortunately, that has been the case with many people that are from this city and who are visiting the city, which makes me really sad. I'm sure y'all know about the fact that our venues seem to last only like 5 years and then they die. That's like a phenomenon that's been going on for who knows how long, probably older than me. So, space to me, like having safe space, all of that, that's safe spaces where people are welcome, super important. But environment, like I said earlier, with senses, like you want to go somewhere where there's intention and purpose with the design, this like lighting, the smells you're smelling, what are you eating? And unfortunately, a lot of the spaces, for me specifically, I'm a musician, so I'm going to talk about places where you play music. The places where I've been able to play, they aren't designed to be places for music. They're designed to be places to sell alcohol and maybe food as well, and have people come in and watch sports on the TV, and then to have music is like an add-on.
Right.
So musicians come in and it's like, okay, you're going to play here. It's not a room that was designed to hold voices and like that's not it's just it's like playing in bars, which I've done a lot of, can be fun, but that's not really me. I'm an artist. I want people to come and like be enjoying the music and to pay attention to that and to like connect with people. And most of the venues where you're going to start playing, if you want to get into live performance, are going to be spaces where the priority is actually like alcohol sales while people watch like a game.
Yeah.
And then you're on in the background. That's fine. Everyone needs to be there where you like are humbled by that. But I truly wish there was just more of a culture here of like creating an environment where people want to go and have an evening where they enjoy and interact like with the artist. And especially for people who want to avoid drug and alcohol culture, like
it's scary
legally,
how tied
or
it is to music.
it's so tied.
Wow.
And like that was a conversation that came up at that same roundtable discussion with the music community. There were the people who run Cypher Wild. They're awesome. So those guys were talking about how like a lot of the youth, they're working with youth who are talented and like ready to perform, like DJs and rappers and like musicians who are young and like they could be performing, but there's nowhere safe for them to do that. Like, or just, you know, certain communities that are more susceptible to like drug and alcohol use. Those are vulnerable communities. I don't want to be promoting that. I'm not into that. And a lot of the entertainment culture is more like hospitality and then entertainment second. So, you know, it's make alcohol sales, food sales, all that stuff. And then musician comes second. So what if I want a dry venue? I can't perform. What if I want like youth to come out and be safe? Like I can't perform if venues aren't designed for the art first. You know? So, and that's something that I was educated on and that I've held. Like, it's just, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, just think they chalk it up to like, oh, there's nothing really going on in Edmonton.
Right.
But no, that's not true. There's like too much going on here. There's so much going on all the time, but it's like nobody has managed to like centralize and put things together in a way that like everyone's connected and supports each other.
Right.
And it's really unfortunate. It's like, it makes me so mad. It's so irritating.
I don't know. That kind of sounds like your calling. Like, I don't know, your study, everything you've gone through and experienced. It seems like you're like ripe to create that.
I mean,
I'm just throwing it out.
Be our leader. Be our leader.
I'll follow you. I'll follow you. I'm here for
That's
it.
the benevolent warrior of creating the art scene.
Yeah, if I could just like touch on that. Like, I mean,
Yes,
obviously
please.
a lot of people that live in Edmonton or even a small little prairie city have that same perception. Oh, not much is going on there. There's a few little spots where things might happen. Oh, you can go watch the game at a bar. You know, all of that is ingrained.
Which is
in our
fine. I don't
mind.
want to insult people who like sports. Like, sports are great. That's great.
I do.
Great,
Hey,
great.
they're
Yeah.
glorified kids games. There's way more better things to do with your life. No, I'm kidding. But I think you like probably have one out of all the discussions I've had here in Edmonton with artists or even just people about what's happening in Edmonton. That's like one of the most like elucidating ways of putting it, that like there is so much, it's just not promoted. It's not visible, you know, through all the means you described. I don't know if I had a question out of that. I just was like, yeah, start that. I'll follow you and we'll make that happen.
I guess I just need to start like complaining more effectively, essentially. Cause like these are conversations I would have like with some people and I'm like, I can't even bother. But yeah, I have lots of ideas as to how things can be fixed.
Can we recruit an army?
Fixed.
If anyone's interested, you know,
Yes.
contact Karima. We'll make an army
We'll
of
give her
people
her email, her
a
phone number.
community.
Please don't. No.
to challenge our
LinkedIn.
current systems.
We'll give you her TikTok.
I
her
honestly,
Instagram.
I don't even want to be. I'm not that kind of person who like. I don't need to be in charge. I don't like unless it's like my thing. Then sure, I'll be the boss. But like, if anyone is out there who's like an expert and who knows and who like works for the city of Edmonton or works for the province or like, it's just my thing is connection. I noticed this obviously in the arts community, but like right now I'm dealing with some medical stuff with my mom. So she's dealing with some mental health issues and I'm taking care of her as well as my sister. I'm not taking care of my sister. Me and my sister are taking care of my mom. But I've been the one who's more on the side of talking to doctors, social workers, psychologists, blah, 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 all that stuff. So what I've learned through this process of many years dealing with our mental health system, not only for my mom, but for myself, that ultimately there are so many organizations, but people don't tend to be connected. And it's like people end up reinventing the wheel, or they're just like not connected. And so the people who actually need the service don't know what to do because there's no central area where they could just go to figure stuff out.
Right.
Like there's no, I don't know if there's like a mentalhealthinedmonton.com that lists literally everything and like creates like flow charts for you and kind of like figures out, helps you to streamline the process of figuring out how it works, where you need to go, what you need to do.
Wow.
Like even I was seeing someone for years who I thought was like a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and turns out they were a general practitioner practicing psychotherapy, which is not the same thing. So I didn't even have a psychologist that whole time for years. It's like, okay, y'all, like again, what I said earlier, people need to be beat over the head. They assume that people are stupid because until you know something, you don't know it. And I think talking to a lot of people in like them, you know, in music, in industry, in anything, it's like everyone gets so myopic. You're thinking about what you do, which is so important. You want to do a good job at what you do. But the big picture is that if you're running something over here and then someone else is doing the exact same thing, y'all could just team up and like split the work and you could have an easier life and everyone would be much happier. So it's like, why is it that on the City of Edmonton website, I can't just like click on a culture section and have literally everything, like all the radio station websites and all the venue websites and everything just be like there. And then everyone else also, I'm moving my hands a lot for people who are listening and not seeing this. Like I'm like doing the whole like equations in the air.
Very impressive.
But like it just needs to be everything should be connected to each other because they're intertwined. Y'all are connected anyway. So just like be active about it. Be proactive, you know? I don't know. I don't have the wherewithal to like do this work, I don't think, but if anyone out there is listening or seeing this,
someone please
do this.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think what you're talking on and like describing is kind of like, I don't know, what Emily and I had a bit of a vision for even this podcast was to kind of create this infrastructure of artists that knew each other and could say, oh, this person does this. And it'd be a lot more easier and maybe centralized to reach out to each other, right? I'm not trying to say that, oh, we're doing that with this, but like I think the heart of that was something similar. Yeah,
the
definitely.
Heart is connection.
Connection. And like you're right, it trickles down to how our cities are built and how they're run. So I mean, yeah, that's why we keep like saying, hey, we like if anyone's out there that does this or this is like I really would love that. Like it would be so cool to have a centralized artist hub for just even Edmonton, right? I mean, even taking on this project and reaching out to a few artists, I've known and got to meet so many people that were in the music community or art community that I had no idea of, you know? And it's like, whoa, okay, how otherwise am I supposed to connect if there isn't, say, a central hub? So I think all I'm bringing this up for is just to say I champion you. I back you in this.
I back you in this as well.
We're with you.
Oh my goodness.
Start it up, give it a name, and we'll 100% be behind you.
We'll see. I don't know if that's going to happen. But right now, since I have a mic, I do, after all that, I feel like I dragged Edmonton a little bit, which I don't want to do. I appreciate, there's so much heart and soul here. There's so many people doing so many things. It's just like, I feel like we just got to like look up a little bit and work with each other. But I have to shout out, we've got Le Rafa, R-A-F-A, they and CDM. So they do music programs in French. They connect so many artists to each other. We've got Alberta Music. We've got the Edmonton Arts Council. We've got the Alberta Foundation for the Arts. We've got, Canada Councils for the whole country, but like people here can access funds to like put stuff on. Even like City of Edmonton, you can like do a block party, like sanctioned by the city. That's cool. Like, I feel like people need to just know that more.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to see bus ads that are like, did you plan your block party for this summer? Like we need to like just, I think a lot of it too is just taking advantage of what's already there, and like this, maybe the city and the province and everything, like communicating again and connecting, communicating, not necessarily changing a lot, but communicating what's already there and having everyone really understand like, oh, you're allowed to like participate in culture. And like, and not just in a way that costs like many thousands of dollars too, that's a good point. You know? Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the fact that I'm in Canada because like our funding is amazing.
Yeah, if you could talk about that too, because you've had success with funding. I know it's frustrating for a lot of artists, the whole grant writing process, like getting into that. Mm-hmm. What was your journey maybe from the start of your grant writing process? Like how many attempts did it take? Like did you ever like utilize EAC staff to contact for feedback, or did you get help from someone? If you can talk about your funding, because I think you're quite successful.
Yeah, well, thanks. I have been able to be awarded with grants, which is amazing. What was the first grant? I feel like it was an Edmonton Arts Council micro grant. Was the first thing I did. I don't even know if they do that anymore. I hope they do. It was like $1,000 to do a demo. Gerardo, you're adjusting your mic so much.
I'm sorry.
It's gonna be so loud on your audio.
No.
That was me last time.
It's gonna do the.
Honestly, like what you say overpowers it. So don't mind me.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, so funding. We've got some great sources of funding. I think my success in receiving funds, I've definitely like been refused before. But like I think ultimately it just comes down to doing your best in like convincing the people that you're applying to that like you're going to do the project anyway. I've been to a lot of granting workshops. Like I've attended the Alberta Music. Oh my gosh, I forgot the name of the series they have, but they have this great series, or they did last year anyway. I don't know if they'll do it again. I hope they do. Where, you know, they had guests come in and you would learn something about whether it's like health in the music industry, but one of them was grants. So they had someone from Factor, which is a national agency that doles out funding, and from Edmonton Arts Council and AFA, talking about what they're looking for. And really, if you've ever had to like write a request or like apply for a job or anything, you just have to be convincing. Like, I'm doing this and this is what I'm asking of you. I'm asking of you these funds to do this, this, and this. So, you know, read the guidelines several times. Keep that window open because you're going to have to go back, read the guidelines, click on every single link, cross-reference the links, make sure nothing like contradicts itself. If anything doesn't make sense to you, email the team immediately. Start early, start as early as possible. Plan to spend, I don't know, like when I write my grant, I'm verbose, as you can tell. I talk a lot. When I write, I just have to get everything out and then streamline. So it takes me a long time. I probably spend, 20 hours at least on my grant.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Like, and weigh it out too. Like if you're applying for a grant, I know sometimes, maybe not necessarily these bigger agencies, but if you see a grant opportunity and it's like $100 and like, but they're asking for you to like write this whole essay, it's like, okay, I don't know, maybe just like do a couple extra shifts. But like, like if you feel like it's stressing you out and like you do your best, but know that like you may not get it. It's up to a group of people that don't know you probably, but also may know you. So don't assume that those people know anything about you. Like, speak to them as if they don't know who you are. Talk yourself up with facts. I learned a great lesson from Ryan Warner, CMI. Shout out to Ryan. You cannot hype a fact. So facts. Talk about the things you've done and the things you intend to do in a factual manner. Don't hype it. Don't like say things that don't put any glitter on it that's not factual, but, use your resume to your advantage. Use everything you have to your advantage, and just be confident, Speak the truth. Alison Migland as well. Like, Alison Migland is amazing. Alison, I believe, is still living in Edmonton, and at the time, a couple of years ago, was working for Alberta Music. And I walked into Alison's office like probably January 3rd or something, beginning of the year. Alison had like just started her job. And I was like, I want to apply for a grant. I don't know. Help me. And she's like, okay, you look frazzled, but let's do this. And she just like, straight up told me, like, be confident, act as if it's happening, which again goes into that whole affirmation thing. Like, speak as if it's happening. On this date, I will complete this. Like, no, I hope to. None of that. No. Like, think about you reading a letter or reading a request. If someone was going to ask you for money, you want to know, what are you doing with it? What's the project going to look like? Give me all the detail. Give me every last tiny detail. Don't like if you're going to tell me about yourself, I want to know what matters. What would impress you? Like, I don't need to hit, like, people talk about their bios all the time. Like, if you're too verbose in your bio and you're talking about, like, when I was 6, I did this and this, unless that's relevant to the project you're doing, don't put it in. Okay. Streamline it, make it like concise, punchy, like what you intend to do. And remember, it's money. Money is important to people, including the government. So, if you don't have to pay it back, that's fantastic. It's a grant, but you better make sure that, like, what you're doing with it, you're counting every single dollar, your budget matches up, and the things that you're doing with that money are reasonable based on, like, the industry you're in. So, yeah. And if you have questions, ask them. I've had full meetings with Chris. I don't know if Chris is still at Edmonton Arts Council, but we've had some great meetings. Like I said, Alison at Alberta Music. There's like, just reach out,
in advance,
not the week before it's due. Yes. like several weeks before it's due.
That's some great advice.
That's great advice.
I'm going to like take that little segment and just like replay it myself. And then we're going to put that out separately.
Yes. I awesome. Honestly, the things that I've learned from just talking to people, and thankfully after applying a lot and just being in going into the office, and like, these are real people. They want to support artists. Like, they want to help you. They want to say yes. So going to the office, like, befriending these people, like, these are your colleagues. I'd like to think of the people that are administering grants, like, these people are like kind of my teammates too, and sometimes things work out and sometimes they don't. But then being on a jury, I got to be on a couple of juries last year. And I really got it then, because once I was the one reading 50 applications, I'm like, okay, no. Right, I'm like rolling my eyes like, nah, this person, like, straight. And I was like, yeah, I get it even more. Because when you're writing it, all you're thinking about is like, oh my God, how do I look good? And like, how do I make them say yes? You can't make anyone say yes. All you can do is represent what you're going to do to the best of your ability, to just be thorough and also concise, right. Like, deliver that information in the most captivating yet concise way that leaves no stone unturned, especially when it comes to the guidelines. That whatever they have on their website, you better believe that you answered every question that they're asking you, right. So, but after that, it's up to, like, what if you're in competition with 10 other people who are much more tenured than you, or like, who knows? Juries are supposed to be fair. And I've definitely seen people walk out of the room because they know that they can't be fair with certain people. So you just kind of have to trust that it will be fair. But other than that, you don't know who else is applying. You never know. True. Yeah. So just keep that, plan it, and know that this has really come in handy for me. You guys know this, the project we worked on, I applied for, what was it, like, about, I think $100 and something thousand to do a visual album.
Oh wow, nice.
And then I had Canada Council say no. and then had Alberta Foundation for the Arts say yes a few months later. And so knowing that Alberta Foundation for the Arts said yes, but did not give me $100,000 because they don't do $100,000 grants, I was like, I'm going to have to do the same project that I envisioned for $120,000 with much less than that, like 15. I can't even remember at this point because it's been so long. So that my spirit of like, gonna make it happen, gonna figure it out, let's do this. Like I'm not giving that money back. I'm doing this project.
Nice.
The fact that Alice and Miglin told me like a year before, when you're writing your grant, even if you don't get it, you have now done all that work of planning out your project.
That's
like
true.
That work, oh my gosh, it's so valuable. Because a plan B, a free plan B is always possible. I swear. We live in such a crazy world now. We've got iPhones, we got resources, we got friends with gear. Like if you really want to make it happen and it's not as good as your original vision, not as like polished or whatever because of lack of money, there's a way. There's a way. But the fact that you already spent 20 hours planning, it's going to be so good, even if you don't get that money. But the thing is, I planned and planned and planned, and I still didn't get a yes from Canada Council. Then I got the yes from AFA. I asked for a deferral. I said, okay, I'm going to apply with Canada Council again in a few months, because you can only apply a few times a year, a couple of times a year. I applied again, had to wait a few more months. I got a no again. And then with AFA, I was like, I don't know how many extensions I can get on this project. I'm just going to have to do it. So I just like changed all these ideas, pulled back the idea. And honestly, I'm so glad that it turned out that way, because the ideas I originally had, not as good. Not as good as the ones that I came up with through revising and getting more like condensed and like, okay, well, I'm limited in the money. So what could I do? I was going to do all sorts of locations, be all over the city, have all these crazy costumes. Like, no, I was like, you know what we're going to do is we're going to shoot it. We're going to shoot different vignettes, but we're only going to use one location. Thankfully, I'm friends with the people at the dance studio. Great location. We're going to do like, I was inspired by some art. I can't remember what the artist's name is. I think I saw them on BuzzFeed, but it was like this artist created like all these vignettes in their like apartment room or in their bedroom or something in a like 10 by 10 room.
Yeah.
I'm like, if that's possible, I can do this. If I can see some artist creating these beautiful surreal portraits with like a fog machine and like car headlights, and then it looks like something else, I'm like, we can do this. I'm just going to have to find a team. We're going to get creative. We're going to get arts and crafts with it. We're going to do something. It's going to be great. So guess what happens? Finish filming. And I get an email from Canada Council saying, you know how we said no? Well, here's the money. Like, here it is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So remember I told you guys, like, I was like, oh, I got some extra money. I think we're going to do some extra stuff with this project now, which is great. Unfortunately, with COVID, obviously that extra stuff hasn't happened yet, but like, it's going to happen because I went ahead with it. If I had gotten the no from Canada Council and then said, oh, well, it's $100,000 project, and I'm only getting 15 or whatever it is. Sorry, AFA, but I can't remember. However much from AFA, that is a significant decrease in budget. That's like changing the vision entirely. Imagine if I had just been like, well, I guess I'll just scrap it and say no to the one funder and just try again for the whole amount later, or just not try at all. Like life would be so different if I had done that. But I was like, nope. We're going to take what we can get and we're going to just change the project. Just be adaptable. Just figure it out. Just go with that plan B and figure it out as we go, and stay up all night if we have to and keep revising. And we did it. We did it. Okay. Like, I'm so excited for this to come out. I'm so excited. And I'm so excited for just more projects, because I'm learning so much. And I have to say, just a side note, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that, like, as someone who is like figuring stuff out, teaching myself how to do stuff, I'm like, the fact that I was able to feel respected from my team, like, that feels, it's honestly so amazing. Like, it feels incredible to be able to be like, okay, I'm humbling myself right now. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just trusting that it's gonna something beautiful is gonna happen because I know you're skilled. This, the rest of the team is skilled. That's why we're all here. Humility, like let's make something. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay that it's not like the original vision. It's okay that it's not like $100,000 project anymore. It's fine. We're gonna make something.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Like I just love it. I can't even say how much I just love the fact that like people can come together and like just share ideas and like just create with like what you have on hand.
Yeah.
Like that's special to me. It's incredible. It's so punk. It's so cool.
Yeah. Can I jump in?
Yes, please. I talk so much. I'm so sorry. I'm getting excited.
It's about kind of the process of these videos. I think first off, I wanted to say like the fact that maybe you got rejected by that first grant, and then there's like another amount that you had to adjust to do it with, and then you kind of wanted to like do it very condensed because of the deadlines and it had been pushed off. So what that practically looked like for us as crew, myself being like a cinematographer and then having to organize a crew around it, it was essentially 7 music videos in 7 weeks. Mm-hmm. And every time I say that to somebody, they go, what? Yeah. Like, what the hell did you just do?
It's crazy.
And everybody thinks it's crazy. And it was absolutely crazy.
It was insane
to take it on. But I wanted to share some like really cool moments from that now, especially like hearing about your art form, how you came to be and what like your heart is behind it. I can like see those moments kind of crystallize. I remember there's one moment you weren't even there. You're speaking about how you had to step up into this leadership role, but the practical reality of that on set was that you had to go get ready. You as the performer had to get makeup and your wardrobe ready, which, side note, were amazing. Every time you came out, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this is beautiful and original and unique. Like we could have shot you anywhere and it would have looked like stunning, right? Side note.
And you were like sewing the outfits too.
You were making them the night before.
I was literally, okay, so straight up, I didn't notice until our last video that I was basically running on a schedule of working 40 hours straight.
Wow.
Like it didn't dawn on me that like that's a week of work in like 2 days. Like you're not supposed to do that. Like I just didn't that's how intense I get.
Yeah.
I just was like, yeah, cool. I haven't slept in 2 days and I just like had some fries and I'm good. Like I ended up having to go to the emergency room because I had hyponatremia.
No way.
I don't know if I told you guys that.
You didn't say that. Oh
I
my
did.
God.
Yeah. After the last video, my feet were swelling up and Daniel, our editor, was like at my place and I'm like, Daniel, I'm getting a little swollen. I don't know if I like should keep working. And then after a while he went home and whatever, and I thought that I had too much salt because like shout out to Café Bicyclette at La Cité Francophone. The fries are amazing. I love fries. So my like meal of the day would be some fries. So I figured it's probably the fries. I probably just had too much salt. That's why I'm getting puffy. Turns out after calling HealthLink and going to the emergency room at like the East Edmonton Health Center, there were like this is so graphic, but like they were like, okay, urine test, do the whole thing, pee in a cup, bring it back, wait for the doctor, all that. I brought my urine back to the nurse and she just kind of like was dazed and like doing something else. She's like, why are you handing me this? Like she thought I was handing her a cup of water. She was like, whoa. What is this? Why are you handing me this? Like, I'm like, that's my urine. She's like, this is urine. It was clear. Wow. And I went to like wait for the doctor, like took a nap because I was exhausted. He comes back after doing tests and he's like, yeah, you have hyponatremia right now. That means like you have no electrolytes. Like you need to go. And I'm like, yeah, I think it's because I had fries. He's like, no, you don't have any salt. Like go get some fries right now. So that's crazy. That's how intense I get, is that the a doctor told me to go get some fast food. That was the solution.
That's so crazy.
Isn't that crazy? Like that habit. So I literally stopped at McDonald's next door, got like 2 orders of fries, ate them, went to bed. And in the morning I was like significantly less like puffy, but it's dangerous. Like you can like die if you don't have electrolytes. Your body will just like swell up and then your brain will just like suffocate and then you'll die. So
all right, we're having Gatorade on set next time for you.
Yes, electrolytes.
Fries.
I'm so sorry, interrupted.
Put in the water.
Yes, salt. So all that to say, I'm very intense. Continue. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean that was kind of part of one of the stories. Is just like, going up arriving to set and then kind of seeing this beautiful, manic, wild, creative idea just like pretty much be formed by you physically and practically in the, you know, the backgrounds or the set or the costuming the night before. And like I remember thinking to myself, I was like, she just made this outfit. She just made that background. We're going to shoot her on
She
this.
loaded it in her car.
She loaded it in her car, drove it over.
Picked me up too.
Yeah, pick up Emily and Brendan. Yeah.
And when we got there and started rolling and we're saying, all right, everything's good to go, action, she fucking did an amazing performance. Just like poured her heart out through this beautiful, open-hearted EP, you know?
In double time, because, you know, slow-mo, we got to slow it down. So,
yes.
Yeah, load the track, double time.
We were changing the time track to kind of do different visual effects afterwards. So it was so much to think about and consider. I remember having a moment just being like, this is an amazing artist I'm working with right now, right? So I wanted to say that as a side story. Then there was these cool other little stories. I remember one time, I'm pretty sure you were there with us, Emily, but again, because of the busyness of having to get ready, Karima, you weren't always in the room, so we would like set up something and do so. So it was for one of the vampire blood shots. You had this idea of getting like a cup that was smashed with blood on the floor, and we're kind of trying to stylize it. I remember when you were next door, and you know, this was probably like day, I don't know, 6 or like week 6 at that point. And so it was like kind of more advanced, into the days. And, you know, you could see that, yes, there were some practical tolls. You were tired, you know, you're having, a lot was going on in your mind. You couldn't keep everything in track, which was, you know, obviously understandable. But we had this moment where we're setting up this bloody cup shot, and it was so cool. I remember we just got the right people around, you know, people we knew, people that had this creative input. And it was just a simple little cup on the ground with blood, and we were lighting it and moving it. And I remember I kind of stepped back from it. We were all like hunched over, leaning in, and everybody, I remember there was this cool moment, and Emily was like, oh, what if it was like this? Oh, what if the blood just spattered? And then another person, the AD, Anthony, he was like, oh, okay, let's hold it. And I just saw it, and I stepped back from it. I was like, wow. I was like, she had created this beautiful little sandbox for these cool people to just come together and play and create something. And if that shot is like super important to the whole thing or not, that didn't really matter. I was like, this is like a little microcosm of like what I saw on the larger scale is like creating this other piece of art. Yeah. And it did feel like that. It did feel like we had like the creativity and freedom to just flow and create. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is really, really nice. I just remember standing there looking at everyone. I was like, what? I'm part of this. This is nice.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
Yeah, because I don't think we ever get to tell you that, but
I guess we were just rushing and just like get it done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love talking about the process because, I mean, for me, from my perspective, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna figure out what I'm doing, and I'm gonna figure it out by 9 a.m. tomorrow. So it's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen, and I just have to trust. And I think that trust is such an important subject in life in general, because so much of like inhibition comes from fear, from not trusting that you're going to be okay, that things are going to work out, that the people who are doing whatever they are supposed to be doing are going to do what they said they would, or that you think that they can. And for me, like relying on myself as an artist, I don't want to live in that. I want to live in a world where I'm a collaborator, and I'm finally understanding what that means. And I think that I was burned a lot by people growing up, from being ridiculed or from being around energy vampires, people that didn't support me in what I did. And the beautiful thing about going through that is now I understand how valuable it is to have that experience, like what you're describing. Like I can just show up and say, I know it's like I'm going to learn more and more and figure out how to have a healthier process, not stay up 40 hours in a row. But just the beauty of saying, I trust you. Like, oh, that feels so good. Just to say like the video we shot last week, when you came into my house and I had a vision, but I was like, Gerardo's got this. He's going to do something amazing. I originally thought we were going to shoot in my bedroom. I'm like, yeah, I'll lie in my bed. I'll sing. Jazz will be in the corner. We'll figure it out. And you're like, actually, I'm inspired by this. The fact that you can walk into my life and be inspired and like just know and like go beyond and see a story and like build on emotional significance, that I didn't even make the connection of. That's amazing. Like that to me is the beauty of being a creator, where you can vibe with another human being and they see something in you that you don't see because you're too busy seeing whatever else it is, right? Like that ultimately is communication. That's healthy communication. That's how I see it. Like we are all we're doing all the time is communicating. Like if we're working in silence, if we're on a set and we can't talk to each other, you have to communicate with your body, with your face, with your eyes, with your with signals, whatever. But ultimately with the goal of creating something at the end of the day. And it's beautiful. And I think it's so beautiful to me because I know what it's like to have people like push me away, scorn me, spurn me, not want to talk to me, make me feel unworthy of existence and like attention, that I'm like, oh my God, it's so, I just appreciate it so much when people can really like work together, you know, and there's no hesitation with truth, or there, you can be honest, you can be open, you can argue, you can do whatever you need to do and be okay at the end of the day.
Yes.
It means a lot. It means a lot.
There's one more, like, to that point, I kind of wanted to take a moment to actually kind of call myself out. I remember, like, we were talking about the whole experience of shooting the music video as, like, this very beautiful community building collaboration. And it was, you know, like, I have such a deep fondness for what we went through. But, again, calling myself out here, I remember towards, probably it was, like, the last day. I think it was on the vampire shoot.
Okay.
There's blood, and I think by the end, yes, we had done... There was like yourself and the other gentleman in the middle of the room, and then we had to still do a blood dripping over like the window pane.
Yes,
right.
The last thing.
Where I was calling myself out here is like I can't remember. I can't even really recall where my own demeanor had switched to being like, oh, okay, what do you need from me? What do you need to shoot? To kind of like shutting down a bit. I was quiet. I was a little more in my head. I just kind of was like a little more like, let's get the work done. And I don't know if you picked up on that, but I was trying to...
I don't think so.
I wanted to like take this moment to kind of ask about that, because I don't know. I couldn't see myself how I was as a collaborator to you. But I felt I was like super in my own head. I don't know exactly what it was. Maybe it was something to do with like the practical nature of how everything came together and like the timing. And I don't really remember, but I knew I was going back to like a younger me of like just being quiet and shutting down. I don't know. Did you pick up on that at all? And if so, how did that make you feel?
Ooh, wow, you're coming at me with the real questions. I remember shooting that, and all I remember is that we were...
I think everyone was kind of tired.
I mean, we were so tired. It was a long day. We did a lot that day.
These are like 12-hour days, by the way.
Yeah.
Or more. I don't know. 12.
I think
around
12
there, 10
plus
to 12.
tear down some of the days,
Right.
right? Like so for y'all, like thank you so much. Oh my gosh. And poor Daniel.
There was food
unloading
though.
my car. Yes,
very rich French food.
Yes, all that cafe music. But yes, to answer your question, I don't recall anything for that specific shot. I don't know. I think overall, because we actually, this is the interesting thing that I didn't really think about. Like we didn't really know each other that well, and we really dove into like working together. So I think like learning each other's like communication, like even for me to just to know like, is like, are you happy with how things are going, or are you okay with how things are going because I seem okay, you know, like that back and forth. So for me, I think, the specific instance you're talking about, I don't remember anything.
Oh, okay.
But I definitely, I don't know. I think the things that I might have perceived as like, I'm not sure what's going on, were probably the things that are like, you were feeling great, and then like vice versa. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
interesting.
Yeah.
What is a moment, like a specific moment? You can be honest. Go ahead.
I don't know. I feel like the biggest struggle in my mind was the second shoot, because that was the first time I was doing something outside of my house, which was at my friend Matt's place when we did the like birthday set.
Right.
And things were just going wrong. Like my tinsel didn't show up. It showed up the next day. So I had not enough tinsel. The balloons were falling off the wall. We had stayed up all night doing all this stuff. It was just like, ugh, dang it. And then on top of that, like the makeup wasn't working for some reason. So it was taking extra time. And so I remember for you were like, what's going on? Like, where, dude, like you're still getting dressed. We got to shoot this. And I was like, I didn't account for this. And I didn't account for this. And I spent too much time doing this. Again, like the ADHD thing where I'm like, I think they call it like magical timing, where you just think that things will just work out in the time that you want it to. Like, that's not how time works.
I'm like that too.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to finish this by 6. I'm like, no.
We have to, we're the type of people that have to plan for like 4 times the time that you think it'll take is what it will probably take. So yeah, I just remember being like, at the candles.
The
fucking candles. That's like lighting all those damn candles. And then I think you thought it was gonna like not look good, but I was like, no, it'll look, this is what I want. Like, this is what I want. And you're like, is it what you want? I'm like, yes, this is what I want. It looks great. You're doing a great job. That's what I want. And you're like, really though? Like, I don't know if this is what you want. So it was like a back and forth. I'm like, no, that's exactly what I want. And I need you to know that that's what I want because you're doing it. I trust you. Like there's nothing else I can add to this. This is good. So that's a huge lesson for me, is overloading myself. Like communicating the vision is a job in and of itself.
Right.
Making the call sheets, that's a job. Trying to communicate the vision, make call sheets, make storyboards, make the costume, put up the decorations, do all the stuff, get myself dressed, make sure I've eaten. So I get it. I get that like it was confusing and hard to know, like, wait, where is my, like, I could see how you would be like, wait, what is for sure? Like, what is needed? What is necessary? What is she asking? And where can I like play? Where is my input able to like come in? Does that seem right?
Yeah, no, I think that's put well. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. Like a lot of it was us understanding how we're communicating and learning about that because again, like we didn't really work with each other before that in any capacity.
No.
Right? It was just like, here's this 7-week, 7 music video project. Let's go.
When did you reveal your deepest secrets and become so close?
Deepest secrets? Oh my gosh, that's never happened.
Or somewhere along the lines of blood and vampires and gravel.
I think I definitely like had to help you get into costumes.
Oh
and
my
I was
gosh.
like pinning. I would like pin things in places, and oh my god, it's splattering blood on you. I'm still sorry for that. I think there was this fake blood, and Karima said to splash it on her.
Oh yeah, oh, you know what?
And
don't apologize.
I got a big clump on her face. That was ice cold.
Wow,
that was fun though. I really, I love the like intensity. Like I like being uncomfortable when I'm like creating something, because to me that's like when you create something that's really good, like I want to be in a weird position. I want to be like covered in like gunk and like doing crazy stuff, because like what else are you doing if you're not pushing a boundary? So it's what a weird project, but I'm so excited to put it out, and I just so many lessons learned.
Any top lessons that we can share before we wrap up soon?
I think so. I think I wanted to like just slightly touch on one last subject, which is probably like where we met and kind of all of that. But
yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, what were you?
One lesson
for
that you just learned
that I learned through this process of taking on writing and directing a visual album for the first time ever. Major lesson. I think the major lesson is just time, like time management. That's always been my biggest thing, is always account for more time than you think you need. And that's really it. I think everything else, like I feel like I can Google my way into and out of everything, because there's so much information out there now, which is amazing. But it's the time. You need to give yourself the time to process and think and take a break and come back and like really make sure that's what you want to do. And then just for things like making the call sheets, like give yourself 4 times the amount of time you think that it would take, especially if you've never done it before, like me. Because when you're learning something new, it takes time, and I'm so bad at that. Like I'm not gracious enough with myself, and I just want to push myself and push and push and push and go fast. And if I haven't gotten it immediately, I feel like I'm a failure and it's supposed to just go way better than this. But now I understand, like, no, making films, making music, practicing literally anything is hard. It's hard. Yeah. It's supposed to be hard. It just is hard. There's nothing wrong with you if it's hard. It's just, you probably just didn't plan enough time to do it.
Right.
It's like the simplest thing.
Or like you have to work other jobs, or like
again,
yeah, like unless you have
like really put it on paper, like people who are like, for me, I worry about, I'm not where I am in my career and I'm not an international superstar. But then when I look at it, it's like, well, did I spend my 10,000 hours? No, I was in university for 4 years. That was a lot of time. Then after that, like some other stuff happened. I was working full time. I was doing this and this and this. Like, it's fine. It's okay. Just start writing it down. How much time am I spending? And just rack those hours up practicing, or, learning the new skill, or just literally doing certain things that you need to do, like your accounting or your planning or whatever.
That was great. I'm gonna start writing my time.
Just like keeping track of stuff. Dang, like it's very effective.
Keeping track is very effective. Practicing, or like
like when I'll for example, when I was preparing for some French music competitions, I feel like I learned this from one of my mentors, and they told me about like Edith Piaf and her practicing. Like they said like, oh, Edith Piaf would like sing 100 times. Like, nobody quote me on this because this might be wrong, but like she would sing the song or practice the song like 100 times before like getting it in her body. So like I would do that. Like I would get a piece of paper and like sing the song and do 1, 2, 3, 4 cross, 1, 2, 3, 4 cross it out to make the like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Like it's true, because we get in our head so much. And we start judging, like I start judging myself. My concept of time is terrible. I'm so impatient. And it's like, it's been 5 minutes. Like, you just started learning how to do this thing and it's been literally 5 minutes. Stop freaking out at yourself. Write it down. And things will probably just line up with what they're supposed to be. Like if generally the rule book says like, 100 times practicing shooting a basketball, you'll probably be reasonable at it. And if you get to 5 and you're beating yourself up because you weren't counting, it's a lot easier to just say, no, I'm going to get to 100. And then,
yeah, that's a good
just
point.
Count it. Just keep it factual, keep it logical. That helps to just take all the judgment out of it. And then things that you actually need to work on internally, you can just work on those things, So life's a lot easier when you're not wasting like half your day judging yourself. Not that I don't do that like every day anyway, but at least I know logically that there's a solution.
Yeah.
So,
that's great.
Anywho, so Gerardo, you have a question?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to spend a little bit of time. We can spend as much or as little as we want on it. Touching about faith. Now, this is kind of where I met you. Even though I didn't know you well at the time, we obviously met at church. Celebration Church, right? That's where we met. Do you remember like what year it was? Probably like 2013, something or like 14. That? Okay. Yeah. We can spend as little or as lot time as we want here, but I guess like my curiosity in that is that, I knew you were an artist then when I met you. I think being in the context of church, it was never like, well, I know. No, what I mean to say is like, I could see that there was like a lot of skill and talent there. And then obviously having this experience of making these visual album with you, I could really get the sense of, again, that you're tied, like that the art that you put yourself to is something more deep and personal. And again, it aligned a little closer with what I thought. I felt it back then, but going through this process, I knew it. And so as I see you now, I see you as this like, how do I say this without sounding like flowery and
you can
wild?
sound as flowery and wild as you want. I love it.
Like meeting people like you with this like tenacity, with this power. You described even just in your name with this skill of expressing yourself. To me, like seeing a person like you is a bit of a proof that God exists. And I say that because hey, hold on, here we go.
Oh my, you got bars. Yeah. Hold on, you say that to all the girls. You say that to literally all the girls. You're just rolling up. You're like, hey, girl.
No. I will now, but no. I'm kidding. I don't know if I can communicate that in the most sincere way, but I mean to say that like the way I connect and look at art and my curiosity in it, why I like to read and write and look at film is that to me it's always, for me it's a search to understand God, how I conceive of God. I grew up in a church, I grew up in Christianity, but I was always told it. I never experienced it. And the way I've experienced it and made it personal to my life has been through art in huge form. So anyways, when I, met someone like you that felt of a similar disposition, I was like, whoa, okay, well, you express something bigger. The thing that I always felt I was like looking for, I felt like you were in tune with, if that makes sense, which you could call God, you could call this and that. Anyways, I guess I'm just diving into all of this to kind of maybe poke your brain a bit as to that connection with yourself in your own art, in your own personal life. I mean, I know we went to church together for a little while, and obviously that has changed since. I just kind of wanted to get a sense of what your connection is to that with art.
Ooh, okay. Well, thanks for the compliment. I have to say.
That's killer compliment.
I mean, yeah, I don't think anyone can top that. So, yeah, man, where should I start? Okay, so you know what? I'll go chronologically, I guess. So as a little kid, as I said earlier, I remember being in church as a small person around all these adults and feeling like a sense of freedom, like a feeling. I still I'm holding my hand at my chest because I still remember this like vibration like in my body. It's like a vibration like headed straight upwards, like just that's how I feel when I'm singing. And I've heard other people who make music but specifically sing talk about this feeling. It's like it always sounds so silly when I hear other people say it, but I'm like, it's true though. Like there's like it's literal vibration. You're vibrating in your body. You're creating sound. You have resonance inside of your like body cavity, projecting outwards, resonating off of the space you're in to create sound and like living sound, right? Like living vibration that people can feel and hear. And to me, that is like the ultimate in like being known, I think, And so for me to feel so free in church and connect church with music, like I would throughout my years, I grew up in the Anglican church and I joined the choir. I was like the altar girl. I did all the stuff, but like singing, like I ultimately, after a long time, I was like, I'm just here for the music. Like, I just want to sing.
Right. Yeah.
I just want to sing. And I knew that like that reverberation and the type of reverb, of course, like the church reverb, even if it's like a little mini mall church like mine was, you still feel that grandiosity when you're singing or when you're singing in a group. It's special. And I think that my concept of like what or who God is and like religion in general has always been kind of, I don't know, it's like something, like I said, I'm this like overthinker and I'm intellectualizing and I'm so glad that I over intellectualize everything because I need to know. And with God, with the universe, with whatever's like beyond us, other planes, ghosts, who knows, phantoms, I don't know. I I like to be basically like a pragmatic, logical believer, you know? Like I believe that so many things are possible, not necessarily the truth because we can't know. So don't worry about the knowing, just enjoy the possibility. That's, I think, how I view God or like the beyond. You know, it's a mystery, and I think that's beautiful. And for me to be able to embrace that in an area that is nebulous like art, I think that's where possibility and dreams come in. That's why it's why it's fun to throw yourself into fiction. That's why it's so fun to watch movies. That's why it's so fun to look at a painting. Ultimately, it means so much, but it doesn't really mean anything. It's just another thing in our existence that someone created, and that's it. And that's amazing. Like the freedom comes from knowing that like there's no ultimate anything, but like the ultimate everything is that there isn't any ultimate anything. And I know that kind of sounds really stupid and weird, but that's how I've learned to understand it. Like I feel like I'm at peace when I think of my life as like, I'm this being. People say like, oh, you're a spiritual being, like living in a physical body or something. Like when I'm not a big gamer or anything, but I think of it as like a video game. Right? Like when you're at an arcade, you're a person and you're entering a different world. I like to think of it as, okay, maybe I'm this like ethereal thing, and we all are these ethereal things, and we're all just like locked into these human bodies, and we're living life, and we just have like our one token to play our game on. And whatever we do is our choice, and we can do the best with what we have, but we have that one token. We have that one chance to do it. And we don't know necessarily, like we don't remember where we came from, or maybe we don't know, but that's okay. All we can do is do our best where we are, be beautiful, create beauty, and like wherever we're going to go after, that's not something you can really like affect right now, you know? Like, so that's where the logic comes in. But the fun part is, the beautiful part is the dreaming about it, and the conceptualizing, and the just trying to be good. Like, just be good because you're here. Just be good because of that, you know? And I like, honestly, I don't know what I really believe. I wouldn't necessarily, I think there was a time when I was like, yes, like God exists, and God is like this bearded man in the sky, and like Jesus was this person that did all these things that Christianity as a body says that Jesus did. But like things always felt a little like off. And I'm so fiercely attached to like being honest with myself and with other people that I just like couldn't really stay in the church, like knowing that, and knowing that there's like confusion over whether or not like people who are in the LGBTQIA, etc. community are welcome. And like welcome and not going to be changed. And like, and you know, when things don't make sense, I need to take a step back. And so for me, that's why I'm not attending church anymore. You know, I follow my feelings. I follow like my literal like chest cavity. Like if I feel like something's off, I need to just take a step back. So I don't know where I stand in terms of my faith, really. Like, I don't know if I would call myself anything, but I do know that I believe that like there are so many things that are possible, and that like this existence is far too fascinating to just be like just what we see. That's what I believe. And I would never like argue in an angry way with anyone about it. And I would never hold anyone to any sort of like life choice or political action because of that. I think it's just an interesting conversation. But ultimately, in terms of the choices you can make in your life, just be good. Just because, you know, just do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, you know, and like just make sure that you're living the most beautiful life that you can, and that means like taking care of other people and making sure that you're taken care of and that you're safe and other people are safe and healthy, you know. So yeah, I think with my art, I didn't even really touch on that, but with my art, you know, like with my song Your Lies, I feel like that was written when I was the deepest in depression I have ever been in, and I just had to conceptualize, like, to maybe like put a name on whatever feeling I was having. And I think I had learned a little bit about like the concept of the ego, and to me, like the metaphor for that is like a demon or a devil or whatever. Although if you watch the TV show Lucifer on Netflix, then that changes the whole idea of what the devil is, and it's so interesting. But this idea that there's something that is sabotaging you, and the folklore and the rhetoric around like demons was just, you know, that's just something we use in our language, inner demons trying to sabotage you, etc. But it's like the ego too. Who knows if it's scientific or if it's, you know, ethereal? I don't know. Doesn't matter. The point is that I'm dealing with it, and I know a lot of other people are too. Or like with, you know, Be Good to Me. I wrote that song on my couch when I was dating someone who like did not know how to support me or be a good partner. And I didn't even realize I was writing something about like someone else being good to me. I thought I was just, or no, I didn't realize I was writing something that was intended for me to to look in the mirror and say, like, you be good to me, like look in your eyes and know that like God. And at that time I was like, I was not going to church, and I went head first into the church right after that relationship ended. But like this idea that like whatever you truly are, or like whatever thing that is all of us truly knows what we truly are, that is the thing or the being or the personhood that would be good to me, without all my crap, without all my self-judgment and all my without all my history, without all my garbage, with all of my like baggage of self-hatred and like struggling and all that stuff. You know, that voice, that like God voice, what you would hope would be what God would be, which I later, you know, actually tapped into when I was doing the Single Life workshop. I think one of the exercises was like, write a letter to yourself as if God was writing it or something. But in that case, it's like a Christian event. It's like, write a letter to yourself from God, essentially. It's like, okay, cool. And then, but even just that exercise, even if it's just a placebo effect, whatever, I don't know. The fact that like I could just shut off all the shit, all the crap, and just write this letter to myself that was like beautiful. Like, wow. You just, Ashanti, you deserve this and that, and you're beautiful, and you're my daughter, like I love you. To be able to say things to yourself that nobody is saying to you, to be able to speak truth that you know in the back of your mind is truth, but everything in front of you is telling you, even in your own thoughts are telling you that like that's not what you believe. That's faith. To me, that is being able to look beyond what you see and tap into what you know to be true.
Whoa.
Which is so.
Those are some bars right there.
Thank you.
Shit.
Thank you. But that is a space that I think I have had to live in for a long time, because as a child, sitting there and seeing people, hearing them hate me, and you know, say these horrible things, and feel it, like really feel it. Like go home every day and cry and be like, I am worthless. And now as a 31-year-old woman, still dealing with this like difficulty in my self-concept, but ultimately also having this film playing of me like in the future, like telling the story of me right now, telling the story of me getting over it and being like, I remember the time when I was 5 and I felt this, and I remember the time when I was 31 and I was telling this story and blah, 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 and I felt this and this and this way, but I always knew that ultimately I am special. I am something. I am something other than what people are telling me and other than what the the narrative in the view in front of my eyes, my cerebral eyes, I guess, not my literal eyes, because there's no text in front of me. It's like this weird dichotomous existence where I have like reality playing and then like this film playing of like, but I also know that this is not reality. Like, I know that that's not true, which again plays into my interest in psychology, because we are able to like live in more than one world at once. Like, that's incredible. It's wild. Like, what are our brains doing all the time? It's like, it's wild. It's amazing. But ultimately, like, I can't know what God really is. I don't know what like my faith is in, quotation marks, but I do know that the like action of faith, like I said, like, don't look at what's going on. Look at what is possible and look at what you know to be true. Look at what your feelings are. Listen, like, see that like that reel playing in the background of your mind and compare the two and see like, which one feels better? Which one feels like it's like the positive, the good, the like pure essence of like the best that humanity can offer. That was so verbose. I talked so
that
much.
was amazing.
We're just like, I could
That was such a
actually
good
listen to
journey.
you on repeat and just
I
like
love
send
you
myself
guys.
to bed.
Thank
I was
you.
almost crying at some
Nice.
points. I was also smiling on the verge of like ecstasy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I love
no.
you guys.
No, there was that was
thank you.
that was put very well.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad it makes
teary-eyed.
Oh,
No, I mean, again, like, yeah, to that point of like, again, like it reminds me. So, I mean, I brought it all up not to be like, hey, what do you believe in and what's your viewpoint? It really is just because like I see the way you express yourself is there's like a verse in the Bible that says like, it says something along the lines of, like the birds don't care about what they're going to eat. God takes care of them. Like nature and beauty, like is talking about just like the way nature is like, it just is, and why I bring that up is to say like, I see that yourself in all of your wild journey of becoming an artist, of becoming a person, faith or not, like you just are this strong, incredible voice, this strong, incredible artist that again, I see and encourages me. And the way that I can be encouraged by like a growing flower or a bird just eating, I see your life and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it doesn't matter the bigger, like, are you a Christian? Do you believe in this? Do you follow these rules? Maybe it's more important living out a life that's just expressed wholeheartedly and honest and having the faith to trust that that's in you and that you are made a certain beautiful way. And so, yeah.
Beautiful. When you said that too,
I think
feel
we're
like
married now. I think you just officiated like like what? Like
that was beautiful.
I don't believe in marriage. So no, I'm just kidding.
I love it. Oh my God. I love it. I really appreciate this conversation. It's just, it's so good and it's so meaningful. And every single person has a story. That's the crazy thing. Like,
Yeah.
I always say, like, if I had, if I were a vampire, I would want to know everything. I want to know, like, everyone's story because, we're talking about me right now, but I know you all have an entire lifetime of, like, stuff that can be, that I could learn from and so many people can learn from. So I really appreciate that you guys are doing this. It's like, it's beautiful. It's so nice.
You're beautiful. And I think you just are. I was just thinking when you said like about nature, it just is. And in itself, just beautiful. So like the beautifulness is just being and then being truthful. So thank you for coming so open and all.
Yes.
just so vulnerably today. And I know you mentioned beforehand that you are an open book, but it was great because it's not easy.
Oh, thanks. Well, I've learned to be, I think vulnerability, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, choosing that is the strongest thing you can do, right? Because you're choosing to put your defenses down, knowing that you'll be okay in the end. Like, I think everyone should just like practice vulnerability, you know? Brene Brown and all that. You know Brene Brown?
Yes.
Brene.
She has
I
another
don't.
podcast.
Oh,
cool.
Brene, so good. Brene Brown, Lisa Nichols. Again, like these are just names of people that like I need to speak. We talked about this earlier, but feeding my brain, feeding my cup. Like I need to listen to those voices, like who've been through stuff, who talk about self-love and vulnerability and all that. That's like I need that like all day long.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course.
Love you guys.
And when's the wedding? Okay.
Yeah, Gerardo, we're engaged. We're fully engaged. That's the narrative here.
Oh goodness.
Sorry,
okay.
like I guess we're both taken. Oops.
Do we have any more questions?
Not really. I think all I wanted to kind of give an opportunity for you was, well, first off, like where can people see you as an artist, as an individual? Is there a website? Is there la la la? That's the first part. And then the second part, are you open to collaboration? Anybody listening or watching this, are you open for someone to reach out and say, hey, I jive with what you're doing. I want to do this with you. And if so, where can they reach you?
Well, okay. Well, I'll start with the contact info. So my website, www.karima.ca. Karima is Karimah. Yeah, you can find me there. I'm on Instagram. So Karima Music. Karima, KarimahMusik. That is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Karima Music with a C at the end of music @gmail.com is my email. Email me, please. Yeah, I'm open to collaboration. I definitely want to work with more musicians. Especially because of this year, and I'm not ashamed to say it, like I need to work on diversifying my teams. I mean, my team is already super diverse. Y'all are super diverse. I was so proud on set to be like, yes, like this naturally came together. Like we've got representation for like women. We've got men on the set. We've got different ethnicities. We've got people who are just like coming from different backgrounds. And that happened organically. And I'm really proud of that. But I also want to be intentional. And I want to feed into Black women. I'm a Black woman. That's the experience I know. So I would love to just like foster a little bit of mentorship in any way I can for Black women specifically. So yeah, open to collaboration, open to like questions, you know, pointing you in the right direction if you have specific questions for me. Modeling too. I love visual creation. I want to do like, you know, all sorts of visual art, like comic book, merch, t-shirts, fashion, you know, like I design, I did that in school, but I want to work with people who like, that's their thing. Music is my thing now, you know, doing makeup, love it. Great. But there are people who like, they love it. And I want to work with people who love photography and love styling and love, you know, like painting. And like, if you want to paint me, I'll come over. Like, let's do this. So yeah, like I love making stuff, you know? So I'm excited to get creative. And if anyone wants to collaborate with me, yeah, please email me. Love it. All sorts of disciplines.
Beautiful.
Let's do this.
Yes, I encourage, reach out, get connected. An incredible wealth of inspiration and art. I have not much more than say than thank you. Thank you for your time, your openness, your candor. You've been really insightful and inspirational. I'm excited to work on more stuff.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Right
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I love it. Today was a hard day. So I'm glad I got to finish it off with this. Oh, specifically, I forgot to mention another discipline. I really wanted to do 3D projections for the last project.
Cool. Oh yeah.
That was a huge part of like the vision. But I think if anyone is out there,
there's my neighbor literally up there.
Oh, great.
Whoa.
Hey. Hey up there. Yeah. Love that. Film, you know, drawing, art, painting, music, all the stuff. So
yeah, modeling, which we didn't really touch on, but
we didn't
that's
even
a whole
talk
other
about that.
thing.
That's a whole other. Yeah,
Part
we
two.
can have a part 2. Yeah,
Part
the
2.
modeling industry, the underbelly. No,
The
just
underbelly,
kidding.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, you guys.
Yeah. I mean, Emily, if you want to
you want to sign
us off?
Thank you for joining us today on episode 3 of Language of the Heart with Karima, woo, music, and myself, Emily, and my co-host, Gerardo. I hope you all have a wonderful night.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yay.
I love it. Oh, that was so good.
Good job.